Hello and welcome to a special episode of Elegantly EDC. At the time that this video was published, Amazon is doing a major sale across its platform, Prime Day. And while this video is not sponsored by Amazon or by any of the products that I'm about to review, I decided to engage in some good old-fashioned, rampant, unabashed consumerism to see if I could pick up some new EDC gear during this major sale. I should have known better when all of the nice things on my wish list were still at their full price and only the off-brand stuff was marked down, with one exception. But I had a good time looking through some of the stuff that was both genuinely useful or just downright quirky. That said, I did find some quality stuff from manufacturers that you will recognize that was marginally marked down, but most of my haul came from random manufacturers. It's the equivalent of when you were a kid and you'd ask your mom for Lucky Charms at the grocery store, but she'd still come back home with Hocus Pocus instead. In practice, they sort of tasted the same, but yeah, it still felt like a letdown. Anyway, let's get into this Prime Day mayhem. The first thing that I purchased is this little gadget, the Oknife Mini Precision Screwdriver set for $28. And at first, I kind of thought the word precision was a bit ambitious for this tool. That is until I got to messing with it. It doesn't look like much, with its slender titanium framework and its weight of only 1.5 ounces. But this is, nonetheless, a screwdriver. To equip one of the 8 screwdriver heads, simply slide this cover over to the side to reveal the surprise inside. This screwdriver set primarily functions with magnets, so you may need to give this a firmer shake to get the contents out. The Oknife screwdriver set comes with 4 double-ended bits with 8 distinct sizes: SL 3.5, PH0, T8, T6, H2, H1.5, PH2, and PH00. I have both likes and dislikes for this compartment mechanic. I like that it's a slider instead of a cap or separate bit storage that you'd have to keep track of. Also, notice this little sphere here. It acts as a pseudo lock, meaning this won't slide open in a pocket or a bag accidentally. You do have to push a little bit to get it to release, and you can also hear it snap back into place. I also appreciate the magnets acting as a safety to keep the bits inside. The package does come with a lanyard and a special 5th bit, a pencil. I did find though that the pencil wasn't all that great. It writes too lightly and there's no storage to keep it. So it either needs to stay on top of the screwdriver until you swap out one of the other bits, or it'll get lost. Another issue that I have is that I have to dump out all of the pieces to find the one I need, and I've already dropped them a few times using this off camera. I would have liked to have a slimmer, maybe flatter version with all of these in their own designated slots so I could take them out one by one. Anyway, once you found the one that you need, you can insert it at the top where a magnet will help keep the bit in place. If you need more torque, you can insert the bit on the side of the body as well. Earlier I mentioned that I felt precision was too ambitious a word for this tool. But after considering the careful thought that clearly went into its design, and the fact that every piece snaps perfectly into place, I can think of no finer word to describe it. It's got its quirks, but nothing that's a deal breaker. And honestly, for a tool made from titanium at this price point, it made purchasing it an easy decision. The next item that I want to unpack, and I mean that quite literally, is the XCASE 19-in-1 survival pack that I got for $26.99 for Prime Day. These usually run for about $50, but we'll see if it's even worth that much. The case is a hard shell compact case with a little string handle. And once opened, you'll notice all of the many shiny tools inside. And it was only after I opened this and completely emptied it out that I noticed the absence of a water and dirt-proof O-ring. There is no O-ring liner to seal the case, but they did put padding in the case walls, which I appreciated. Some self-explanatory items super quick. A reflective emergency blanket, cord, some keychain screwdrivers, 1 Phillips, 1 flathead, some more string for the handle in case it breaks, the obligatory pen, and of course the window breaker, made of tungsten. Fish bait, which I almost threw away because I thought this was a mistake, and a credit card knife. The credit card knife has a can opener, right here, a bottle opener, 2 rulers, 2 screwdrivers of different sizes, a saw, and a hex wrench of 4 different sizes, and some more string. All in all, this piece is pretty solid, but it didn't particularly blow me away, especially when you have nicer things like Swiss guards out there. Also included in the pack is a 3-in-1 utensil, spork, fork, and knife. Honestly, the fork portion is all but useless, and the sheathed knife portion has an additional bottle cap opener. I did find the knife on this piece of equipment to be sharp enough for a meal. It's just weird knowing that you're going to have to spin this around in circles in order to eat, cut, and then take a bite. Personally, I like my fork in one hand and knife in the other, but at least the design is good for trimming down wasted space and weight. Next up, a small flashlight, complete with a pocket clip. It requires a AA battery. That was not included, so you will need to source that separately if you decide to purchase this. It's not the brightest light in the world, but it's competent and it's straightforward. You only have 3 settings, high, low, and strobe, but the best feature is the ability to switch between a focused beam of light and a wider radius of light. I could not find the lumen output or run times for this light, so that remains a mystery. For campfires and emergency sources of heat, there is also a flint and flint striker, the top of which kind of looks like the Decepticons logo from the Transformers franchise, and coincidentally, it is a bit deceptive. First, it has a little silicone sleeve that you'll need to remove, and then you'll need to chip away at some paint before you see sparks. One side I've left pretty much untouched so you can see what I'm talking about, and the other side is after I've chipped away most of the paint. I finally got the flint to spark, and it did pretty good with the little tethered striker. The striker also has some other tools on it. It has an additional hex wrench and cap opener. I don't know why we need so many cap openers. And finally, 2 more rulers of different measurements. This mess of wire is a wire saw that, after I tested it out, actually worked pretty well. You have to really give it some effort depending on the thickness of what you're trying to saw, but it does work. If you're a survival gear enthusiast, it's pretty likely though that you have a small hatchet in your pack that would be significantly more efficient. I feel like this would be a great addition to something that's already really reliable. This handy-dandy tool that I thought was clever was a bottle hanging buckle clip. You can clip this to a belt or backpack and hang your water bottle instead of having to hand carry it on hikes, or you can use it to keep it off the ground at campsites. The downside is your water bottle better fit the loop because it can expand a little bit, but it does not shrink. So standard plastic water bottles and this are not the best of friends. It's at this point that I think the rest of the kit really starts to feel like the price I paid for it, which, to remind you, was $26. 2 locking carabiners, not designated for climbing purposes, though the advertisements for this whole pack show people rock climbing with them, but that's neither here nor there. The locks unfortunately slide around like crazy once you've loosened them, and it does make sometimes trying to open them a little bit difficult because your fingers will slide around. But the redeeming quality is that, when engaged, these locks do hold into place. So I do have to give it some credit there. The next item on this list is an uncomfortable survivor bracelet that does not stretch, so my more muscular friends probably would not be able to fit this. Also included is a sometimes accurate compass that was supposed to glow in the dark, but mine doesn't. Just for reference, north is due this way, and we're facing this way. Interestingly, it does have another flint and flint striker built in. I don't really know why. I did find though too, well, there it goes. I did find that it starts to eat away at the buckle, so that's not the most fantastic design. There is also an additional subpar but technically functioning whistle. Pairing well with this disappointment is yet another whistle. That's not very loud and looks like an afterthought at best. But if you get lost in the woods and have run out of voice to be located by a rescue team, I guess this gives you something. This beautiful thing is a compass, and I want to stop here and really soak it in. At first brush, it invokes feelings of adventure, like maybe I'll use this and a map on the back of the Declaration of Independence to find some lost treasure. It feels weighty, and feels maybe, just maybe, like this thing is worth it. And then you go to open it, and it looks cheap. To top it off, it's a compass that doesn't point in any particularly meaningful direction. Good luck finding your bearings with this supposedly glow-in-the-dark crown that doesn't really work. And if you hold the compass just right, you can actually choose which way north is. I have more thoughts, but I will give the manufacturers the benefit of the doubt on this one. It is entirely possible that it was once functional, but got damaged en route to my home during delivery. But that would speak to its durability. The last piece of equipment is this folding knife. It's heavy and sturdy enough, with a pocket clip and these ambidextrous pivots. At the bottom is a seatbelt cutter that is just totally out in the open, and I do have some concerns that this might cut things in a bag, a pocket, or even fingers if you're not careful. But the biggest beef that I have with this knife is that this giant blade is spring-loaded. Opening this thing nearly knocks itself out of your own hand, and closing it means you have to push pretty hard. I love a good knife that has a good snap to it, but that snap needs to come from controlled inertia with me at the helm flicking it open, not from a spring. Secondly, there is no lock to keep this thing closed when it's not in use. So if something pulls on the blade just right, either in a bag, pocket, or even in its own carrying case, cuts are going to happen. And because the spring wants to push this blade outward, I see this as a potentially major safety issue. On the plus side though, the blade does seem very sharp when it's fresh out of the box. In an emergency situation, you want your gear to be trusted and reliable. I would trust some of this gear and scrap the rest. Foundationally, it's a great start to give you an idea of what you should consider packing for an emergency survival kit, but I would most definitely recommend not ordering one that's been pre-made on the internet for $26. I bought this next item purely out of curiosity and because I thought it looked a little bit dumb, but I've discovered I really love this tool. Up front, this is absolutely not an everyday carry item, unless you work in construction or something along those lines. This is solidly built and pretty heavy, weighing in at 13.7 ounces, and again, impractical for lugging around each and every day. But for $13 whole, you get the following: a hammer and nail remover, a hex wrench, 3 different screwdriver bits that also insert at the top here, a fairly ingenious set of pliers that this really surprised me, a bottle opener, saw, some more hex screwdrivers if you need them in 5 different sizes, 1 more Phillips head screwdriver, another bottle opener or a can opener, whichever you decide to use, and finally, a knife. I did have to loosen this bolt right here at the bottom just a little bit. When I first got it, the manufacturers had wound it just a little bit too tight, but after I modified it, it was much better. Similar to the screwdriver that I talked about at the very beginning, I like that this too acts as its own carrying case for the bits. The insert is again at the top and is magnetic with a decent magnet. The only downside is that the bits have to be released from the bottom, so even when closed, there is a possibility that these might come loose and fall out. To resolve this, there is a convenient carrying pouch or carrying case, and you can put all of this back in it when you're not using it. This is a great tool to keep in your desk at work, since I think it has the most basic tools you're going to need, all housed in one unit. And this would probably be a great gift for a college student in their first dorm, or even somebody in their first apartment. I was super excited about this next item in particular. And this is the Wuben G5. And someone in the comments had actually mentioned this a while back and said that they were really happy with this company. So I went ahead and purchased this one. But I've had my eye specifically on this one for quite some time. I was genuinely surprised by the size of this when I opened up the box, despite the size being clearly listed in the description. I guess my brain filtered that piece of information out somehow. But I still love the size. It did make using some of the functions, though, just a tad tedious. But the more I handle it and get comfortable with it, the less I'm bumbling around between all the different buttons. It came with a USB-C charger, the charging port of which can be accessed with this little peekaboo slide right here on the side, right up here next to the light lock. The G5 also came with a strap and a keyring. I already put the keyring on and I was a little sad. It did kind of scuff the matte finish when I put it on, so I don't know, I wasn't too happy about that, but It's fine. The strap is okay. I'll probably keep the Wuben on my keys because it's so small, and I wasn't too impressed with the strap. The adjuster just doesn't stay in place, and I'll show you what I mean by that on camera. So here it is, as tight as it can be, just wiggling around a little bit, loosened it all the way down to the halfway mark. But anyway, back to the light. Like I said earlier, you can lock the light down to prevent accidental battery usage by sliding the bar all the way down. And then to access the light, just slide it up once. The power button is on the same side, right above the lock right here. And there's also a little dial here that you can use to change the color temperature or even the brightness of the light, but we'll get to that shortly. On the bottom is a very strong magnet, and you can attach the light anywhere and then adjust the head until you get it where you need the light to shine the most. The only downside is this keyring does get in the way of the magnet, so consider that before you decide to use it. The last thing on the body is a little pocket clip that you can actually swivel around until it meets your preferences. Okay, I don't think I've ever read a goofier manual for a flashlight. And to spare my poor teleprompter operator, I'm going to show you the instructions for the different settings from the manual itself. As you can see, there are almost too many settings. So I'm going to walk through the most basic ones, the ones that you'd most likely use on a regular basis, and then I'll show the color options, but I won't spend too much time on those. I still think you'll like the final demonstration though. To power on and off, simply click the button once. And once on, you can adjust the intensity by spinning this dial. So you have your booklight setting at the lowest and your high beam setting at the highest. The best part is this flashlight will remember the setting you last left it in, and that includes the dialed in intensity that you had last time. For turbo super duper bright light, the flashlight has to already be on and then click twice. Turbo mode will have to be turned on manually every time. This is the one setting that memory mode will not use, and that's to preserve the battery life, I think. The brightest setting is 400 lumens and it'll run for about 50 minutes. The lowest setting at 2 lumens for 65 hours, and this is all according to the handbook. Alright, color modes. Super cool, definitely overkill, except the emergency red, which I do think is important for emergencies, or to protect your night vision. Memory mode will engage on any of the color or flashing settings that you have, and so flash warning here, let's do a quick montage of all the colors. The red and blue flashing light would be great if you're in the back seat and your friend is taking a turn a little too fast for comfort in the driver's seat. You might slow them down with the flashing red and blue lights in the rearview mirror. But please do not use it to impersonate cops with other drivers. We're all not out here trying to get into legal trouble. The Wuben G5 is probably a bit too much for a true everyday carry flashlight, with a million different color settings and color options and brightness settings. But I think it's super fun and definitely one of my favorite flashlights to date. One last thing, it makes for a great little reading light. Finally on this list, I bought the TomToc Electronics Organizer travel case, purchased for $16. Now these usually run for about $20, so even if you miss the discount, the normal retail price won't break the bank. It's not very large, it's designed to efficiently organize cords, AirPods, chargers, and the like in a small pouch that can easily be slipped into a larger carrying bag, or kept in a desk drawer if you wish. For those who like to shop with a cause, this is made from RPET 600D polyester using recycled materials. A staple for TomToc, they utilize YKK zippers. Also on the outside, there is a wrist strap, a small handle, and the zipper has a polyester pull tab. All confined into one major compartment, there are 3 smaller pockets on one side with a little pen holder sewn right here into the side. And on the other side, you have 2 pockets, one that just has some free space and one that has a zipper to keep things from freely roaming around the cabin. These pockets can be easily filled with, in my case, JBL earbuds or AirPods if you use them, or if you have a Wuben G5, it also fits in these mini pockets too. And then down the very middle, there is room for larger, bulkier items, including things like charging bricks, cell phones, flashlights, or even portable phone chargers. The case is water resistant, but I could not find the IPX rating specifically for this one. Given the brand's reputation, I think you could comfortably attribute the water resistance of their other products to this one. But on the other hand, this is designed to house electronics, so maybe just keep it away from water altogether, just to be safe. It's hard to go wrong with the TomToc bag. I have yet to find a major fault with any of their products, which, if any of you have watched the channel for long enough, you would already know that I am a huge fan of TomToc products. Even when empty, this bag can stand upright, which is probably a silly thing to most people, but I appreciate that it can stay upright and not have its interior contents all jumbled around when laying on its sides. Last thing, there are two tiny loops right here on the sides that if you really wanted to, you could kind of reinvent to make it a crossbody bag, but you would have to source that strap separately. There was no additional straps for that purpose sent with this when I bought it. Also, TomToc offers purpose-built options that work better for crossbody carry anyway. Again, this is just to organize electronics. All in all, the EDC gear I picked up on Prime Day deals proved to be a fun mix of enjoyable, disappointing, and genuinely surprising items. As always, this channel is meant to be a community where we can discuss EDC items. So let me know in the comments if you picked up anything that you found to be of significant value, or maybe just something downright unusual. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.